Welcome to another episode of iandersontv. I'm Josiah Summers Anderson. So today we're going to be talking about the difference between settlers and immigrants. Well, this basically has everything to do with like what makes up a U.S. citizen. Um, so I was about to do an episode on like birthright citizenship and why is it a myth and whatnot, but due to like what has been going on, I didn't get a chance to do that. But my subject on settlers and immigrants and why America isn't really the nation of immigrants that you probably were taught to believe that it is a lie. And you should probably know that. So today we're going to talk about the reason why that America is not a nation of immigrants. It never was and probably never will be. So anyways, we're going to talk about that. We'll be right back. And immigrants. So all it will take is like a simple Google search. So I remember searching up on Google about the difference between a settler and an immigrant. So a settler is basically someone that comes into the land and makes something out of that land. Of course, like for example, the people that came on the Mayflower, people that explored Jamestown, and stuff for that matter, those are called settlers. And the westward expansion, those were called settlers. Manifest Destiny. So those were called settlers. Now, immigrants is where people of different cultures basically participate in the nation that was already built. So immigrants are just participants in this, and they would fail to assimilate to the culture of the nation, so they much rather bring their own culture here. So anyways, I pulled up some articles. There are two articles about this. So if you guys have seen my story earlier, if you guys seen my story about last month, I believe October, that I printed out about 3 articles for this season, so I'm using 2 for this episode. Alright, so the one start with America is Not a Nation of Immigrants by Ben R. Crenshaw. I don't remember which website this came from, but I'm just going to read parts from this. Alright, 1 lie, 2 untruths, and 3 implications. So, this was written July 17, 2024, so this mentions about the 2024 election and the border crisis that happened under Joe Biden. And let me read the second part of the introduction. So Americans have an unusual empathy towards immigrants. This is understandable since many of them either come from immigrant families or are immigrants themselves, and also because America has a rich tradition of accepting and incorporating immigrants. While at least half of the American populace now seem to have reached a breaking point and support mass deportations, many others are aghast at such a prospect. The recalcitrant defenders of immigration are often under the spell of immigration propaganda. And the core myth of that propaganda is that America is a nation of immigrants. So this is the immigrant nation myth. So in this article, it contains 1 lie, 2 untruths, and 3 implications. So 6 different things here. All right, the lie. Behold, behind the rhetoric of America being a nation of immigrants stands the lie that America is a nation is nothing other than an aggregate of immigrants from around the world, past, present, and future. Within this lie are two untruths and three unspoken implications. So the first untruth is that America is a nation of immigrants because you are an immigrant, speaking to actual immigrants. If you are in fact an immigrant, this makes sense in many ways comforting. You belong here because you are an immigrant, and America is a nation of immigrants. In fact, you might be more authentically American than natural-born citizens. Let's see. The untruth is easily dispelled by asking yourself whether you were born in America or did you immigrate to the country. If you were born here, then you're not an immigrant. Since the vast majority of American citizens were born on American soil, then most Americans are not immigrants. All right, so then there's argument about birthright citizenship. So I remember reading something from Hillsdale College about that there are like two components and that birthright citizenship is a myth as well. So yeah, you're born here in America. That's one part of citizenship. What's the other one? Pledging your loyalty to the United States of America, not any other nation whatsoever. That's like a step towards naturalization. So I remember watching a naturalization ceremony on TV when it was close to the 4th of July. And one phrase from that oath that they had to take is that they will not have loyalty to any other nation other than the United States. So, yeah, they take that oath and they're American citizens now. Yeah, so, yeah, those are like two parts to it. So I remember having like a Instagram commenting debate with someone. Of course, I don't know that he'd probably make a career out of trolling people or probably commenting under conservatives' posts. Total garbage. But he says that he thinks that if you're here illegally, then you're an American citizen. Well, no. If you're here illegally, then you are breaking the law. Well, so here's how I will explain illegal immigration. So some people would say that, American citizens break more laws than immigrants here, illegal aliens here. Well, guess what? How many illegal aliens do we have here in the United States? Probably way more than natural-born Americans committing crimes. So every day that they're here, every hour that they're here, and stuff of that matter, they are breaking the law by being here for this amount of days, that they're due for deportation and stuff. So that's how it works. So anyway, that person's argument is totally useless. So if you're here illegally, then probably do yourself a favor and get yourself out of our country. I mean, try coming in the right way. I mean, do the naturalization process or something like that. Or claim asylum when you are in danger. Just do not come to our country illegally. And skip ahead of the line of people who need to actually get into our country. All right, so the second untruth is, are your ancestors immigrants? All right, so having been rebuffed by the indisputable fact that the majority of Americans are not immigrants, the immigrant nation advocate pivots to a tried and true retort. It is not the case that most Americans themselves must be immigrants in order for America to be a nation of immigrants. Instead, because everyone's parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, or earlier ancestors at some point immigrated to America from another country. This makes everyone an immigrant by proxy, a spiritual immigrant perhaps. This argument assumes an unstated principle. As long as one's ancestors recently long ago immigrated to this country, making you a descendant of immigrants, this is sufficient to make America a nation of immigrants. Of course, this principle is absurd, for when applied to other countries, the results are reductive. So, let's see. So, all right, so it mentions for every country at some point was an uninhabited, uncultivated, and barren piece of land to which migrants have to move and settle, cultivate and develop, and reproduce in order to create a people and then a nation. England's a nation of immigrants, Germany is a nation of immigrants, Chile is a nation, China, and so forth. On this standard, every nation is a nation of immigrants, and thus America's claim to exceptionalism on this basis is nonsense. So, it says even Native Americans are immigrants, for they trace their ancestors to people groups who had migrated to North America from northern Siberia and Asia across the frozen Bering Strait and down through Canada. Thus, Native Americans are not truly native, but immigrants to North America. They are not Native Americans, but immigrant Americans, just like any other American. This means, among other things, that the Native Americans' claims to dominion or special treatment are false pretensions. If all right, so let me just unpack this for just a moment. So to today, of course, we have a lot of people saying that, oh, my parents were born here illegally, so does that make me illegal too? Yes, it does. And people make the argument, oh, Trump is deporting children alone, locking them up in cages. Well, if you really do your research, President Obama, Barack Obama, started that first. And somehow people started paying attention to it when Trump became president. So, what in the world are you talking about? So, if your parents are here illegally, that means that you are illegal as well. So, as Tom Homan said, of course, families get deported together. So, good luck. I mean, so anyway, there's all kinds of legal options there, but this could be controversial, the H-1B visa. There was an entire debate about this back in December. Of course, I remember when I first heard about this, I couldn't wrap my head around like these things. Of course, I think both sides, they make amazing points about it. Vivek Ramaswamy, he was sort of right about like American education not living up to its potential, and Steve Bannon saying that we must prioritize Americans first over importing cheap labor from China and India here to America, even if it is legal. So, and Elon Musk talking about the importance of competing against China. Well, since I have gone a bit more nationalistic, I got a little more far right on these things. I think that we should have a moratorium on illegal and legal immigration for at least 10 years until we find out what's going on. I mean, don't start a moratorium on AI. Start a moratorium on all immigration. So, the first implication, American immigration is American exceptionalism. So the first implication of America being a nation of immigrants is that this makes her unique among the world's nations. So, all right, let's see. Second implication, immigrant America is cosmopolitan and global. And third implication, the propositional founding. All right, so let me try this article. It's from the Boston Review. It's called The United States is Not a Nation Immigrants by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. It's from August 16th, 2021. Let's see. So the United States has never been a nation of immigrants. It has always been a settler state with a core descendants for the original colonial settlers, that is, primarily Anglo-Saxons, Scots, Irish, and Germans. The vortex of settler colonialism sucked immigrants through a kind of seasoning process of Americanization, not as rigid and organized as the seasoning of Africans, which rendered them human commodities, but effective nevertheless. Let's see. Okay, multiculturalism. So, multiculturalism persisted into the neoliberal 21st century, culminating in widespread diversity training, the coining of a new term, people of color, and the production of Hamilton, which not only erased the indigenous peoples in African slavery, but also turned the white founding fathers, who authored a constitution that recognized only white people as citizens, into brown and black men. Let's see. There is the Black Power and the women liberation movements gave birth to identity politics. And it has gotten worse. Let's see. Well, there's a lot of good information in this article, but I guess I pretty much said all I wanted to say on the other article. So let me say this. So anyways, I guess in order to be a U.S. citizen, of course, you're going to have to assimilate to American culture. I mean, I know that we have a lot of races and religions over here, but so I believe that America is a Christian nation, not Judeo-Christian, because that's an oxymoron, or because I know we have freedom of religion here, but the freedom of religion comes from a biblical view of goodwill. No, wait, free will. That you are free to make a decision. It's why we have voting. And basically, but yeah, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So suddenly that it is racist to actually suggest that, oh, America founded by white people, and that of course, and white people, they built mostly everything. Well, I don't think so. I mean, so anyway, I remember hearing a sermon. Um, I think this is a viral video from Pastor James David Manning, who runs a church there in Harlem, New York. Of course, he says that, oh, well, African Americans haven't built anything. Well, so anyway, yeah, I believe what happened um, in South Africa. He referred to what happened in South Africa, that it has gone completely garbage. because of Nelson Mandela. And we like to praise Nelson Mandela as a hero here in the United States. And some people in South Africa as well, but really that's not really the whole story to it. And if I dare say that Mandela was a bad person, he was a terrorist or something like that, then that puts my head on a pike, which I obviously don't want to happen. So, but again, America is not a nation of immigrants. It never was. So, really, so anyway, the left says that diversity matters, but they only talk about diversity of color. But what about diversity of thought? Well, I guess it shows that I don't think they really want to acknowledge that. I mean, I heard that Loyola University in Louisiana, they failed to put together a Turning Point USA chapter. So, and I heard that an HBCU have decided to take away the Blexit chapter from the university. So, completely remove a diversity of thought. Well, there isn't diversity in the HBCU. So, when it comes to color, so there must be no diversity of thought there either. So, this is why I choose to go to a college where that there is diversity of thought. Not just diversity of color, because color does not really matter. It may have mattered to me 5 years ago, but it sure as heck doesn't matter now. So, anyways, all I can say, acknowledge that the same people that built America, they're being demonized today. I mean, people saying, oh, the founding fathers were slave owners. Okay, and there are Africans who owned slaves too. There were black people who owned slaves too. Every single race on this earth had their ancestors enslaved. No one was immune to it. No one. So what are you talking about? Instead of taking down statues and stuff for that matter, I mean, it's part of history. What has George Floyd done for in history? So, anyways, we'll be right back. All right, everyone. So that is it for this week's episode of Anderson TV. So, next week we'll go over the episode Diversity is Not Our Strength, Unity Is, and the reason why. And I'm recording this on Monday, November 3rd. So I'm still trying to come up with a day where that we do the Anderson TV virtual town hall. So it'll be a virtual town hall where that you guys will get to ask me questions about what can Anderson TV do better? What can I do better in order to get people more engaged with Anderson TV? I mean, because I tried as much as possible in order to get it. I don't spend any money. I use a different setting other than my apartment or other than staying with my grandmother. So I'm using the podcasting room. So what are more things I can do and what help can I get as well? Because it seems like, well, what I originally wanted to do when I was 12 years old is to do one of those challenges that plenty of popular YouTubers would do. I would love to do that, but it requires money. It requires time. So, anyways, I can't do that, and it requires the good friends to do them with, and I don't really have that. So, but like I said, I need ideas, reasonable ideas. So, if I have to use TikTok again, then I'm considering that as a nuclear option. Of course, that's my nuclear option right there using TikTok. But I'm a bit hesitant about using it because I've used it several times, especially this year. So it hasn't gone well, so we will have to see. So that is it for this week's episode. I'm Josiah Summers Anderson signing off. Goodbye, everyone, and have a nice week.